Live? We are live. John Reed with another evening recording. Man, you're not going to believe who I got this time. First, in his world-class hotel room, we've got HCM troublemaker Jarrett Pazahanick. What's going on, man?
Hey everyone, John. Thanks for having me.
SAP Jarrett. And then, all the way from, I'm not even sure where the heck Luke is right now, we got Luke Marson, HCM and Cloud Prognosticator. What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm coming from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Excellent. I never would have guessed from your photo there. Yeah. Yeah, and my own art looks like it's crooked, but it's not. This is just the illusion of the webcam. This is high-quality stuff. So listen, today I got these guys gathered this evening to talk about some important issues. We've been hearing a lot from LinkedIn folks on these topics, and it's basically about becoming a SaaS consultant. Both of these guys have made the transition from old-fashioned legacy consultants from the old days to SaaS consultants in the SAP HCM space, SuccessFactors consultants. So we're going to find out a little bit about how they did that. We're going to do a shorter video that kind of does an overview of SaaS consulting skills and trends, and then we're going to dig into a deeper dive in a second video that I promise you should get interesting, because we're going to hit on some hot button topics, shall we say, around training and certification, and then see where we land. So, but I think a good place to start is with a recent blog that Luke did. Luke, you were looking in a blog post at the different roles on SaaS projects. You want to say a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, it was just a few thoughts that I'd had. I published on LinkedIn a blog that was just covering, some of the skill set that I've seen and that I think that a SaaS consultant should have. So, if you look kind of at some of the on-premise projects, particularly large ones where you have what people call the armies of consultants. You have maybe a program manager and or a project manager. There's going to be a solution architect, a lead consultant, some technical consultants, maybe some programmers, maybe a system admin or two, some hardware folks, and you're looking at maybe 5 to 10 different types of profiles. Now, when you look at some of these SaaS implementations, what we're tending to see is maybe one person that has all these skills, someone that understands business process, that understands the technology, how to configure that technology, how to problem solve, how security works, and how to secure data. And on top of that, they might be managing the whole project themselves as well. So those sort of consultants have got to have maybe a really wide breadth of skills at a quite reasonable level of quality, which we haven't traditionally seen within the kind of on-premise world, except for the kind of super consultants. But now we're kind of seeing that those kind of super consultant profiles are the norm really with SaaS implementations.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one of the things that I see out there is I sort of see 3 different camps of people. I see the camps of people that think the cloud is a fad. They think on-premise is going to be there forever, and they're not willing to make any change, and they're actually spread a lot of fear about the cloud. You see the people that sort of see what's coming and want to know how to get there. And I think that a lot of things we're going to talk about today is going to be sort of that group of people is probably enjoy it more than the others. And that group is growing, especially in areas like HCM, CRM, analytics. There's a real, and I guess finance as well is starting to move in that direction. So these are areas where there's a definite trend. We're in the early innings moving to the cloud, and then you have the people that have made the transition as well. One of the things I see is I see a lot of challenges. I see a lot of misconceptions out there. Speaking in the SAP world, I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, I know SAP, so moving to the cloud is going to be easy. And one thing that I experienced this myself is that you accumulate knowledge over many, many years. So I got thrown into the fire 17 years ago, and I learned a lot my first few years, but you forget how much you learn just day in and day out. And learning to be a consultant or learning anything brand new, especially a new technology, is pretty complex. So that's one of the biggest things I see out there is people underestimate what it will take to become a cloud consultant. And a few of the things that are just totally, totally different. Working multiple projects. A lot of SaaS-based consultants have to work 2, 3, 4 projects to have 40 billable hours. That's definitely not the norm in the on-premise world. Remote versus on-site is another huge one. A lot of the cloud-based consulting firms are pushing more of a remote-based model, and that's really different than most on-premise consultants are used to. It's actually a great thing for those of us who really value work-life balance, because living out of a suitcase is nothing that anyone really enjoys once you become a certain age. And the other big thing is the different methodology. Going from an agile methodology to an agile methodology from a waterfall methodology. It's just a totally different way that projects are delivered. So just a lot of changes, a lot of new things, and I think anyone that's looking to make the transition, they better realize that they're going to have to work very, very hard to have the same level of consulting expertise that they had in the on-premise world.
Yeah, I think a lot of the skills are transferable, so skills aren't wasted, but certainly a lot of hard work is required in order to build on those skills, take the skills that are transferable, but then, kind of learn the new skills, some of those things that Jarrett quite rightly pointed out, and then expand and start learning those other areas that may not have been something that you typically have touched on in the past, but are going to be critical to being able to deliver SaaS projects going forward.
Now, Luke, you talked about several different components around process and technology and management. Is there an area where you felt you needed to push pretty hard to kind of round it out quickly so you would be a full-fledged SaaS dude?
Well, I'm lucky from coming from a background where as a teenager I was a big geeky. I was one of the first people I know that had a computer and had the internet, so I spent a lot of time honing my technical skills. And then, I was pretty good when it came to the business side of things, at school and going to university. So I kind of had both of those aspects. And I think, if you've got both of those, it does serve a good purpose. And I kind of think it's much easier. No, this is maybe a bit controversial, but I think it can be easier for the technical folks to go across to the business side, because I think, a lot of people just, I think, struggle very, very much with the technical side of things, but I think someone who's technical can still learn business process over time and pick it up. I just think because it's not so technical. It's challenging, that's something I've definitely learned in my time. But I think those that come from a techno-functional background certainly have the edge. Balance multiple projects. I was lucky. Again, earlier in my career, I worked a lot with a small niche HCM solution by a vendor called Nikisa, and they were kind of small projects, and I had to manage 4 or 5 of those at a time, and that put me in good stead when the cloud came along. But I certainly think that it's not so easy to just learn to balance 3, 4 different things and fill up your day and learn to organize yourself so that you can get all those different things done and meet all those different deadlines. Because quite often a big project, you're mainly all working towards one common deliverable for that stage of the project. And then all of a sudden you find yourself working in different stages of projects with different deliverables on different days or even different times of the day, depending on the workload that you have. So, those kind of, discipline and project management skills can be quite important. And that's something, I had to kind of hone a little bit more over time from when I first came into the consulting industry.
Jarrett, let me ask you real quick. What I tend to think of you as kind of a pro HCM guy. What was like the hardest thing for you? Was there something in particular that was challenging about this transition, or?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was going from being a senior expert consultant to being a junior consultant. There really is no other way around it. You take 3 weeks of training. I don't care how much business process knowledge you had. Customers aren't hiring people for business process knowledge. Now, Obviously, if you have that, you can be a lot better consultant, but most companies feel like they have that business process expertise. So if I go in to do a payroll implementation, they have a payroll manager. Now, obviously, the fact that I know it is great, but when I went to start, I learned success factors, and in the first week, I thought, holy smoke, like, this is hard, this is really tricky, until I started to get the sense of how the training went, and it got more and more comfortable, and there's just so much stuff to learn. For me, the easiest things to learn were the things that I could equate to something I knew in my past life as an on-premise consultant. That was easy for me to learn. But I think the biggest thing is you have to come up with a plan. And the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be thrown to the fire. No one can lead a project after they've done a 3-week training course. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how much knowledge you had. You need to go about it where you're a team member, you're learning from someone that has more experience, because the models are different. So you don't have the ability, and I hope we get a chance to talk about this later, because these aren't big teams of consultants that are coming in. So you're not just one of 6 people who can sort of hide in the corner. You're one of a team of 1 person or maybe 2 people max doing a lot of different things. And so if you think that you can automatically come and lead a workshop in a product that you have just had 3 weeks of training on, I mean, that just doesn't happen. And customers, when you have these workshops, they're intense 5-7 day workshops where they're asking you questions like, can the system do this? Can it do that? How would you recommend we set up this and that? And in reality, you're still at the learning point of what everything can do, and you can't go back you can't go back 50 times and say, like, I need to research that, I need to research that. So my recommendation is to learn it the right way, but it's very humbling. It's very, very humbling, and I would still, even a year and a half into this, consider myself a mid-level consultant at best. I mean, I still have so much to learn.
Right.
Jared, actually, you had a few tweets in the week which I thought were quite interesting, where you were talking about some of your pet peeves about consulting, and I think one of the things you mentioned was consultants who claim X is the best practice or Y is the best practice based on their 1 or 2 implementations. And so, it's a valid point. How can a consultant go in and advise a customer on the best ways of doing something or different ways of doing something when they've done it once? Now, I've gone into customers where they've had a consultant who had only done 1 implementation. They hadn't hidden it. They were very open about it. But some of the recommendations they made were far from best practice, and the customer wasn't getting the full value that they should have done because the consultant hadn't seen that in their 1 project. So Jarrett hits on really good points there. I think it's important, consultants, you're going to make mistakes, and that's why it's important, as Jarrett says, not to just jump in and being the lead consultant on your first project or your second project, because you will inevitably make mistakes. We're human and we're learning. So it's good to be working with someone that's experienced so that they can help guide you when you get into those areas where you're maybe not so sure, or you need to try and understand how something's done, so that you don't get too far down the road and realize that you've made a few critical errors and it's going to put the project back, or you're going to have to go in and explain something's happened because of this, and then it all has to be undone. And I think it comes down to maybe something that Jarrett's done extremely well is reset your own level, your own expectations, and say, yeah, I'm a junior, or now I'm a mid-level consultant, because you haven't got the experience behind you anymore. Yes, you might have great functional knowledge, you might be a great program manager or project manager, but actually having the knowledge and the ability to be able to deal with customers day in, day out, those different types of questions, give that sort of advice, you have to learn that, and you need to, in order to do that, you have to realize where your place is in the consulting chain, so that you can better evaluate what your strengths are, and more importantly what your weaknesses are, and where you've got to spend your time honing your skills.
Right. I mean, in my case, I went from a platinum consultant type rate in the SAP world to taking a non-billable role on a global Fortune 500 implementation. So I mean, the project wasn't full time, but I mean, when you go from making no money on a project, that's not something that's
right.
that's not something that's the norm, but I wanted to learn it the right way. I mean, could I have been thrown into the fire and learned on the fly? Sure, I could have. But I just didn't want to do that. I really wanted to take my time with it, and not everyone's going to have that opportunity, but I just really encourage people to, when you're looking at your strategy, and this is to break into HR, to CRM, to finance, look at not just getting the certification and having a piece of paper. Try to understand what partner, if you're going to join a partner, what partner has work. Just getting it and then trying to go out and find work and being left on your own, it's not a good situation. Some people will be able to make it work, but customers are a lot more savvy than they were when I started 17 years ago in SAP, and they expect a lot more. And I think that we all in this this video cast today have done a lot of stuff to educate customers. But in the same regard, you want to put yourself in a situation to succeed, and just don't think that you're going to do 3 weeks of training or a month of training and all of a sudden be coming in and being a senior consultant, because it's just not reality.
And actually, there's something that we're hearing a lot of, and this is something that's probably a bit more specific to the SuccessFactors world. Just to digress slightly, is a lot of the independents at the moment they aren't able to get the opportunities to get trained and go out there and work. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't really think that you can enjoy that privilege any longer. I know you want to be independent, and the money's good, and the freedom's good, but at the end of the day, you are learning something new, and you can't just jump into the fire, as Jarrett says, and just learn it and just be able to go out because you've been doing SAP on premise for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. I think there has to be expectation setting, and people maybe have to take a step back and take a bit of a step down to a more appropriate level, whether they can pick up the skills in order to progress up to the level that they want to be at.
Right. And one thing to throw in is I don't think SaaS consulting is for everyone. A lot of people aren't wired. People are wired potentially to be a good on-premise consultant, but I don't think as many are wired to be a good SaaS consultant, and this is across all the modules. And the real couple reasons why is the fact of things are changing so much faster than people are used to in the on-premise world. So in the on-premise world, I would consistently see people that weren't keeping up to date with enhancement packages, and these were coming out every 18 months, or a new upgrade was coming out every 3 years. And now, with Workday, you have 2 releases a year. With SuccessFactors, you have 4 releases a year. I mean, and these aren't just little releases. These are releases that in each module have 200 to 300 pages, a PowerPoint presentation to show you those changes. And so if you're not staying current and you don't have that aptitude to be a learner, a lifelong learner, you are not going to be successful, because in encounter this, even in your consultant come across is, I'll be sitting in a meeting and they'll say, client will ask them something and they'll say, oh no, the system can't do that. And the system couldn't do that 6 months ago, but it can do that now. And that's just something that's not everyone has the ability. A lot of people say, I'm too busy to learn. If you're too busy to learn, then you are not going to be a good SaaS consultant, because one of the benefits it's bringing customers is rapid innovation. And rapid innovation means consultants that are rapidly learning.
Excellent, guys. Well, I think you nailed that real good. Let's put a wrap on this shoot. Thanks for joining us for this overview of becoming a SaaS consultant, and hope you derived a few good field lessons from those hard truths those guys were dishing out. All right, so let's stop it here.